This is session number 3 working on a game called King's Claim. Check out the previous videos if you're looking for some context, but basically what I'm trying to build here is an online game that's sort of a little bit inspired of a couple of elements from the classic arcade game called Rampart, where you have a castle and you're kind of building walls around it to claim area, and also a little bit from Dungeon Keeper, the video game from I think the 90s, where you have these workers and you sort of assign them tasks to do and then they autonomously do them. I'm kind of trying to combine those two things into a game that takes place on a map similar to like a real-time strategy game, and you claim space by enclosing it in walls, and then the more space you claim on the map, the more workers you're able to generate, and then your workers can also attack your enemies' walls and that kind of thing. And the goal is to take over a certain portion of the map to in order to win. First session. The point of this video is kind of two things. One, this is a game I've wanted to make for over 20 years, and I wrote a game design for it very long time ago on many computers ago, and I still have a copy of the original design. And I'm just now finally getting around to taking that design, stripping it down to just the basics, and then trying to actually build it. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is I've also recently been experimenting with agentic AI for building stuff, and I've built real-world systems with it and real software. And I'd like to try to use agentic AI to build this game that I've wanted to make for a very long time. So that's kind of the context. Previous videos just walk you through. I'm literally live coding this stuff. And so far we have, just to bring you up to speed, close this out, we have a server that runs a little simulation just in the console where we've got two castles, player 1 and player 2, and the W's are the workers, and what they're doing is they're going from these little places here where the walls are supposed to be built to these Q's, which are the stone quarries, where they're fetching the stone to build the wall. A couple of problems with this. First of all, they should have built the wall already, and they should have moved on to the next wall segment. That's got some bugs in it, so not too worried about it, but at least, the workers are pathfinding, and the sort of framework is kind of there a little bit. But I want to move past this console-based thing, and what I want to do is start moving toward a client-server thing, because I want this to be an online video game people can play collaboratively or competitively. And I want it to be, some graphics. So I started to work on just a little bit of an idea around doing a 1-bit graphics, just black and white style for now. And I'm going to start working on what I thought was the client code originally. So if you see here, I've got a server and a client folder. So off camera, a couple of things have changed. One is I have this castle.png it's the first 1-bit graphic I created to start working on the game. Let's see, client images, castle. And it just looks like, I'll show you here in a second. It's just a tiny little castle that is on a 16 by 16 grid. Most of the things in the game are going to be 8 by 8 pixels, like the workers and stuff like that. Segments of wall will be 8 by 8. The castle is basically going to take up a 2 by 2 section of grid on the map, so it's double the size. And then maybe quarries will also be bigger. I don't know. But this is just to give you an idea of what the graphics are going to look like. I'm starting off really simple here. So anyway, so that's to come. The other thing I've done between the second and now third session is I've been trying to think about okay, I've got the server backend that runs just the very basics of the start of the simulation. How do I want that to evolve? What do I want it to be? And what's going to be in the client folder? Well, I originally was thinking that I would do a Ruby backend for the server because I've built online games in Ruby before and they're plenty performant. and it's really easy to iterate quickly using that language. If you prefer another language, by all means, do whatever works for you. And I was thinking of doing the client as a Godot client, probably Godot 4. But I've recently had, actually just a couple hours ago, a little bit of a change of heart here. I think I'm actually going to convert the server stuff into just a Ruby on Rails application for a number of reasons. I eventually, not anywhere near the beginning of this project, but eventually after I've got the game basically working and I've tested it and stuff, I'm going to want to add user accounts and play history and leaderboards and stuff like that. That's going to come way toward the end after the game is working and play tested and it's fun, because if it turns out to make this game and it's totally boring, I'm not going to bother making user accounts and all that. Why do all that work? But the second thing is I have done some Godot clients that you publish via the web. So people can play in the browser and stuff. And I just find that while it works, and it's quite impressive that it works, because basically what you do is you publish a WebAssembly version of your game program. They take a long time to run. They take a long time to load, all that stuff. And it turns out that there is a gamepad API in browsers now. And so you can just play games that require a gamepad directly in your browser. So that means, okay, I was going to move toward web technology, which probably meant like JavaScript or something. And then I just thought, wait a second, I need a client server protocol to be able to like load the game and send communications and updates in the map and all that stuff. I was like, if I'm going to do, that's going to have to be some JavaScript element. And I thought JavaScript's going to want to talk to the server over WebSockets. Wait, I'm already writing the backend in Ruby. Rails has WebSocket support. Why don't I just build a classic web app with WebSocket support for real-time stuff? And then I could scale those out horizontally if the game gets any kind of popularity and I need more than one server. And it's really pretty straightforward and simple to do that. So here's where we're starting today. I'm first going to start. I have a couple of to-dos that are yet undone, or not undone, but to be done. One is this autonomous AI player, which is kind of partly implemented already. It's got bugs, but it's like the framework is there. And then the second thing is refactoring this architecture of the server to just organize it better. Because right now, if you look at the server file, it's just one giant file, and there's an infinite loop toward the bottom that is the main game loop. But it's all in one file. And what I'd really like to do is, split that up into a game object and players, and kind of start to organize things a little bit better. So this task T005, I'm going to have the AI work on now. And then immediately after that, before I go any further on T004, which sort of might be done-ish anyway, I'm going to have it start converting things into a Ruby on Rails app. And I'm going to get rid of the server and the client folders and just do everything in the root folder. So maybe, okay, so I'm going to start by just describing that to the AI and have it make a plan. All right, so let's do that. All right, change. All right, thanks for what you've accomplished so far. Bit of a change in architecture. Given that I want to make a multiplayer game that's online and uses gamepads, and I'm already using Ruby for the server, I realized that I could use Ruby on Rails plus WebSockets, probably, to do all of that. Browsers also have a gamepad API these days. I think it makes sense to basically convert this project into a Ruby on Rails application that uses WebSockets for the real-time game updates. Any major concerns with that before I go into more detail? So I'll get some feedback from the AI. I'm certain that from a technical level it will work. Let's see if it brings up concerns, things I should think about. Let's see if it changes my mind, for this kind of game where the game doesn't even exist yet, the scale and the number of players I need to support is currently, one, just me. I'm not too worried about scaling factors or the complexity or, whatever at this point. I'm mostly just basically double checking my idea and looking for any major gotchas that maybe I didn't think about. So here it goes. Now, one thing before I read this, it's always important to remember that AIs are trained to be helpful and to kind of agree with you a lot. So you have to ask it questions where you're directly inviting it to give you critical feedback. Otherwise, it'll basically just say like, oh, great idea. Of course, we should absolutely do that. Say that all the time. And you're going to miss out on what might be relevant feedback if you don't ask for feedback, like critical feedback. That's why I phrase these things as a question, like any major concerns, stuff like that. Because I want it to actually think as a partner that's trying to help make things better, but also helping me try to implement things and kind of balance that. So just kind of keep that in the back of your head here. All right. It's a very excellent and viable plan. Yeah. See, it always like pats you on the back first thing, and which is, fine, I guess. It's a little bit weird and annoying, but all right. So converting this into a Rails application is a standard, powerful way to build the foundation. Yep. Okay. Here's a breakdown of my assessment. Overall, it's a great architectural decision. Gee, thanks. I guess I feel good about that. Leverages the strengths of mature framework Rails, which I do agree with, for handling the web layer, user accounts, APIs, etc., while using modern built-in technology, Action Cable for WebSockets. If you're not a Rails developer, Action Cable is just the sort of it's WebSockets in Rails with a little bit of coding around it to make it easy and accessible in sort of a Ruby context. I have no major concerns that this would block this approach. The main challenges are not deal breakers, but rather architectural shifts to be aware of. Game loop management currently has this, will need to be reimagined. A Rails server process can't be blocked by an infinite loop. This is true. Rails processes are designed to be request and response, just like any Ruby, any web process. So what I'll have to do is have like a web server to serve things like matchmaking and serve up the games and stuff like that. And then what they'll do is when you start a game, it'll kick you over to another server that's running the game loop. So I'll kind of have both things, but I can keep everything in one code base. So I can have the web app and the sort of server background loop stuff that I showed you over here all in one code base. And for my web servers, I'll just have it run the web stuff. And for the real-time game server that needs to do WebSocket communication, those will be separate servers, so it'll be fine. Game loop will need to run as a separate persistent background process. Or, well, maybe not necessarily persistent, but like every new game needs to be its own process, so that's true. A custom rake task or a dedicated script that loads the Rails environment. Yep. This process will be responsible for updating the game state and broadcasting changes. That sounds right to me. State management. In a multi-threaded, multi-process web server environment, storing the game state in simple in-memory variables is not reliable. Standard solution is to use an in-memory data store like Redis. Yeah, maybe I need that, but I'm not sure that I do. I think I need. Well, we'll see how the server thing kind of plays out, but I feel like the server code itself is going to be its own process I don't know why it would need Redis on top of that, because it's just going to be construct. I mean, we're going to write it in Ruby, but it's going to be constructed like any other game server where like players connect. It runs the game simulation. It makes sure that everybody gets everybody's updates, and it makes sure that it enforces security on the server side so that, you know, each player can only see their own stuff and they can't see the enemy's movements and that kind of thing. So whatever. I think this is, we'll see. Maybe I'll add Redis for some other reason, but I don't immediately see why the actual game process would need a Redis server necessarily. Project restructuring. This is a significant migration. Well, I mean, this is so tiny, I don't know how significant it is, but whatever. The existing Ruby classes, player, worker, map, etc., will become the model layer and the Rails MVC pattern. I don't think I agree with this, actually. I'll explain why in a minute. The server script will be replaced by Rails controllers, action cables, channels, and the aforementioned background process. Okay. The reason it could be right about some of this stuff, but when you're doing models in the MVC sense in Rails, usually what they mean are active record models or code that talks to a database. This stuff is all real time in the game. I mean, like, I might store maps in the database and load them, but, you know, and I might store like a user account or something, but like the player object in the game is not the same thing as a user, like somebody logging into the game, logging into their account. And the real-time map and the worker state and all that stuff is not really the same as like building a map and storing it in a database. So yeah, I'm going to redirect the AI a little bit from here. I don't really think that's what I'm looking for, but overall this is good, and it's not calling out any major problems. But so, okay. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm not too worried about the MVC stuff just yet. However, let's create a Rails app using the latest version. Actually, I'm going to do that by hand. I'm going to refactor the folder structure a little bit on my own, and then I'll come back to this conversation and explain what I did. Thanks for the feedback on the architectural decisions. All right, cool. So first thing I'm going to do is go into the server folder and just see what's here. Okay. So we're going to keep this pretty much exactly like it is, except that I'm going to pull this gem file out. It's empty anyway because I don't have any dependencies right now. I'm going to remove the gem file and the gem file.lock. Oh, I forgot about this stuff. So I'm going to get rid of this gem set management thing. I'm going to move the Ruby version up one folder. And so now we've got just the stuff that implements the game. Okay, so I'm going to keep the server folder, but I'm going to move it a little bit. So I deleted that stuff. Okay, so I'm going to do Rails new here. Okay, echo, hold on. Which versions do I have installed? Ruby on versions 3.4.6. So I'm going to use the latest one. Echo 3.4.6 to Ruby version file. Gem install Rails. Oh, wait. Actually, I want to do Ruby env gem set init before I do that. And so now we've got a gem set called King's Claim that matches the folder I'm in. So if I list my files, I've got this gem set file again and Ruby version. So if I do Ruby version, it'll be it'll be that. All right, so I need to install the Rails gem. So I'm going to do gem install Rails like I had started earlier. All right, so it's going to install the things I need for the Rails application itself. And I need to go look something up while that's running. How to create a new Rails server. I'm doing this off camera in case you're wondering. In the current folder. Rails new dot, yeah, okay. Okay. So great. We're going to do Rails new dot database equals PostgreSQL. Oh, do I want to do that, or do I want to? There's a lot of new developments around using SQLite, which seems like a weird choice, but probably going to stick with Postgres just because it's what I know really well. Yeah, I don't think I want to turn this into an experiment of using SQLite in production, even though there are legit people doing that these days. I do want a full, like Rails has an API only mode if you wanted to build just a pure API and not a full-blown web application. But I do want a full-blown web application because I want to serve the game's website and what else? The game's website, matchmaking, login, user accounts, all that stuff eventually is going to go into the web app. And then I'll have a separate thing for what you would call it, for running the actual game server. So I think this is the right command where I want to start. Actually, before I run that, let me just see where I'm at. Okay, let me commit what I've done, just so I have, if this Rails command turns out that I have it not quite right, I can always go back. Start of refactoring for Rails backend. Push that, and then do Rails new dot, meaning the current folder, database equals PostgreSQL. See if that works. Oh, I don't. Okay, so I have my own README. I don't need the default one from Rails. So overwrite this. No. Overwrite the .getIgnore. Sure, that's fine because I can always bring back what I have. And it's doing all the other Railsy stuff, which is a lot of boilerplate just to get the application started. It's doing a bundle install to install all the dependency gems, or all the dependent gems that make Rails do its thing. And then you'll see kind of the folder structure it has as test folder for unit tests, a public folder for 404 and error pages and whatnot, and it's set up database configuration and whatnot. So that's all good. I also have a couple of just personal preferences on a couple of frameworks. So out of the box Rails is pretty good, honestly, but I'm gonna flip a couple of things and bring in my own stuff. So if I do this now we've got a whole bunch of stuff. Kamal is a building tool for containerized deployments. Why did .github show up? That's interesting. Huh, I didn't know that was going to be in here. I don't know that I need that. What's in workflows? Oh, I'm not, yeah, I'm just going to, I self-host this code, so I don't know why I need that. Oh, and Dependabot I don't need either. Okay. I'm just going to get rid of the GitHub folder. I don't think I need that. I'm going to look at what's in the gitignore file, which it replaced. This is all pretty standard stuff, so fine. Yeah, not too concerned there. The one thing I always have to add is ds, yeah, .dsstore files, which are a specific thing for Mac OS that I just always have to remember to add. The Docker stuff I might use, so I'm going to leave Kamal and Docker ignore and all that stuff there. Okay, I've got my agents file, which is going to stay here. I've got my old client folder. The Rails app is going to consume this client stuff and the server stuff. So I still got the server folder. Most importantly, let's go into the app folder. And this is where I'm going to move things. So I'm going to move the server folder into here. And now I've got, if I go into server, I've got everything that was here before. And if I've got this, I've got King's Claim app server. So all the server code is now in the app server thing. So if I go back to my code folder in King's Claim, and if I do Ruby app server, this should theoretically run exactly the same simulation I had just a few minutes ago, and it should still work, and it does. Great. But now it's sort of embedded into the Rails app, which is where I want to go. I've still got the docs folder that it was working on. Oh, and all that's in here is the design thing, which is fine, actually. Yeah, we're going to keep that. I might have it update it a little bit. What else is left? The client folder. Okay, so the only thing I have in the client folder so far is just this castle image. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go up a level, let's go up one more level, and we're going to move client images into public. And so we're just going to serve the images in the game assets and whatnot, I think directly from the public folder when the Rails app is live. So I should have now, if I look into public images, the castle stuff is there now. Okay, great. So the client folder should be empty, except for this temporary file, which I can also remove. So let's get rid of client and then look at what we've got. All right, this is not really deleted, it's been moved. This has been deleted, and this image has been moved. We've got a new get ignore, and then we've got all the stuff related to all of this. Config secrets. Where do secrets go? Oh, there is no secrets file right now. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we're just going to leave that. Things look like they're ready to go. So if let's say if I open a new browser window off screen here, give me a second. Huh. Give me a second. I'm trying to do something off camera that I will bring onto camera here in a second. Okay. So this is my browser window where I'm just going to make sure that the Rails application works, and it should. And I'm going to use, I don't know, port 3003. And we're going to do B, which for me is an alias to bundle exec. Rails server on port 3003, I said, right? Okay. So we're going to run this and see if the Rails app just loads at all. Yeah, that's okay. And okay, no database, no problem. That's kind of expected because I configured what database adapter it should use, but I didn't actually set up the database. So if I go to config database, I can delete all this documentation, basically, boilerplate stuff. Blah, 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 blah. And okay, I mean, this is fine. Oh, I forgot that the cable stuff, the action cable stuff is all done in the database now. That's cool. So I've got default settings here, development database, test database, and then in production we break out this stuff. Here's the thing. I like abbreviations, so I'm just going to do KC for King's Claim. And then here we're going to call it KC test and KC prod. And then we're going to abbreviate the usernames here. Username, KC, password, for my development environment is just going to be KC. I will set, for production database, I'll manage the credentials and whatnot separately. But this is just super, super easy to do it like this. Actually, I'm going to use the same username and password for the development and test database, which only exists on my computer anyway. And then let's open up Postgres, and I'm going to do create database actually I don't need, hold on, create role KC, alter role KC with password KC. Probably needs to be single quotes. Yep. Alter role KC with login, with create DB, with super user. Okay, so I think that's the permissions I need to give it so that I can have it set up the database, and then I'm going to do bundle exec rails db create, I think is the right command. So it should create, yep, my KC and my KC test database. Awesome. So now if I do Rails server port 3003, hopefully it will load this time. Nope. But what? That. Rails console. Oh, I called Rails console, not Rails server. Okay. Go back to the browser, reload. Hey, look at that. Rails 8.0.3. So our app is basically working. Rails app. So okay, I'm just going to commit all this because I think this is everything I need. I don't think there's any credentials or secrets in here. If there are, I will rotate them some point in the future, but it should be fine. Start of Rails backend. Yeah, that's fine. I'll just say that. All right. Okay, I've made the following changes. Oh, wait, let me check something. I just want to see what it actually called the application. Is it, hopefully it just called it King's Claim to match the folder it was in. But where would I find that? Config application? Yep, module King's Claim. Okay. Oh, yeah. If I'd been a little more careful about that, I guess I would have done King's _ claim, because then it would have capitalized it like that. But one word King's Claim is fine. I don't care. I'm not that picky about the capitalization. Okay, so that all looks good. I've created a new Rails application in the current directory. I've moved the old server folder to be under app server in the Rails app. I've moved client images to public so that the Rails app can serve the image. So the Rails application will be the full-blown app for the website, matchmaking, starting games, necessary APIs, user accounts, etc., etc. Into the future. Take a look around and let me know once you've familiarized yourself with the new folder structure. And yeah, again, just talk to it like it's another developer. That seems to work just fine. Maybe there's a faster, more concise way to do this and that I'll develop over time, but pretty simple. Yeah. Standard Ruby on Rails application. Yeah, it understands where things are now. And now this is part of the context of this conversation. So that's, you would think like, why do you have to explain that to the AI if it's so smart? Why can't it just notice that? It will. It'll figure it out eventually if you don't say anything, but it may take it may take more time if you don't just keep it kind of in the loop, right? So now I'm going to have it update the documentation. I've kept the docs folder. Please update whatever you feel is necessary there to bring it up to date with the new architecture. And so it hasn't made any code changes, but let's see what it does with the docs. Okay, so it's going to first reread the docs to see where things are. Now it's going to rewrite stuff to match what I've done. And so I've got my database working here, so that's fine. Oh, and it already made the changes and committed them. So it didn't make a ton of changes. Future managing work, blah, 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 blah. AI player. Okay, it took some of the lower level stuff out. That's interesting. And replaced it with just the high level architecture. I don't know if that's really what I intended. Oh, or maybe it just moved it. Front end browser. Okay. Did it really delete this or just move it to a new section? AI player, computer player. Oh, yeah, okay. I just misread this. So just reorganized it. It looks right to me. And it committed the docs update. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to start talking to it about what the user is going to experience. And how to hook into the server backend. So, okay. Do we still have some undone stuff here? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now that that's done, let's continue with T005. Is now in app server. Oops. All right. So at the end of this, I should still have a runnable server, but it should refactor the stuff to kind of create a little bit better code organization, basically, is all it really needs to do. I missed this renderer thing to handle. Well, no, actually, that's still correct for now, but whatever. Let's see what it does. All right, so now begin by refactoring stuff outlined. The significant architectural change also proceeds step by step, blah, 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 blah. App server game. Okay, so it's putting everything under app server, which is what I want. There's the new game thing. It's pulling out the infinite loop. It initializes a game and calls run, and that has the loop inside of it. And it's still got the rendering. Now it's going to refactor and pull the renderer out. Now it's, and then after that, it's going to pull some things out of the game file now that they're in the renderer. Yep. Good, good, good. Def update. I wonder what that does. Don't know. Guess we'll find out. All right. The actual server.rb file is way simpler now. So all that stuff's been moved out, and we just need to call game.new.run. Great. Okay. Get next command method. Oh, okay. So this, I don't know. I don't know what that is. This will encapsulate the AI's decision-making logic. For now, it will just create a new wall job if it doesn't have one. Oh, see, this is part of what I thought the server was missing anyway. But anyway, okay, fine. Fine. Get next command. So this just must be part of the to-do I wasn't thinking about. Oh yeah, see, this was already in the to-do list. So it's not making stuff up. It's literally doing T005 the way I asked it to. So, you know, whatever. It's all good. I've forgotten even what I asked it to do, apparently. Command processing, good. Okay, cool. Cool. Mark this complete in the to-do file. There you go. I should really do like a faster alias for no wrap. Okay. That looks good. Now let's try to run it. So I should still be able to do Ruby apps or server, and it should still run. Nope. There's a syntax. There's a problem. Try running the immediate error message. Yep. Bingo. In its refactor, I don't know if it's just not quite as good at Ruby or why. This is not the first time it's done these kinds of syntax errors, so I don't know what the deal is, but it's probably a really small thing. What was the actual error anyway? Unexpected end. Yeah, it probably just had one too many closings. Ah, see, there it goes. Is it building actual walls now? Ooh. I think in the refactor it also maybe fixed one of the things. I don't know. But it's running and it's building walls. It's probably not doing a good job of it. But I guess we'll see. So it's kind of streaming this thing on the back end, and when it sees that, you know, the game's running and not stopping, it'll cancel eventually here. So give it like 30 seconds. I think it has like a 30-second or 60-second timeout. All right, so that's looking much better. So let's see what change it made. Render and command. Yep. Probably just fix the syntax error, which probably just involved moving some stuff around. Yeah, anyway. I know what I just said doesn't really mean anything. But, oh, there you go. See, and it already did all of that. The refactoring is now properly committed, and the server is in a runnable state. I'm ready for the next task. Okay. I believe that you're probably correct, but let's verify. Oh, dang. I mean, it's doing something. It's doing something. There's no... okay, it's definitely building walls because each worker has 1/3 of the stone needed to build a piece of wall. So what you're seeing here is the workers go to where a wall segment is, and it counts up from 0 to 1 to 2, etc. And there's no color coding or anything here, so it's kind of hard to read, and I don't know why it's building, you know, the walls the way that it is. Huh. You know, if there was collision detection, this might actually make sense, because a diagonal wall would be just would block workers, and yet it would take up less stone to cover a wider area. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. Anyway, well, this is better in a sense, in the sense that, hey, it's actually building walls now, which is great, and it fixed some other things. So, hey, progress. It's a total mess, and I can't really tell the difference between wall segments being built and my castle anymore, because the castle 1 and 2 no longer, they're just not labeled quite the same way, but whatever. That's okay. This is great, though. We got it refactored into, what? Oh, that's not good. Oh, we got out of sync somehow. Well, screw it. I'm just going to do a force. I wouldn't normally do this, but I know that the current local state of the code is correct. So, and I'm the only one working on this application other than the AI, of course. So I know it's safe to just force push over. All right, great. I think I'm going to stop this video here. This was mostly about refactoring, getting the Rails application established, deciding that we're going to go with basically a JavaScript HTML front end. We're going to eventually use the gamepad API and that kind of thing. And what I'm going to do in the next session, I think, is start to build out some basic front end, so that instead of running this, I'll still run the server, the server process on its own. However, I will need to have it start building out the HTML front end so that I can actually visualize this in a browser instead of just having the, welcome to Rails page or whatever. So that's it for now. See you next time.